Welcome back everybody. We're going to look at section 2 now, and this section is all about approaching the response. So before we even begin writing, we need to consider what the different question types are, how to plan the response, and we'll also be looking at a model answer later on in this section as well. So with the different question types for task 1, there are 4 of them. But these are a lot simpler and easier to understand than they are in task 2. So the 4 different possible tasks that you might encounter are graphs with a trend, comparative graphs, processes, and maps. So you might be confronted with one of these 4 options. Now, here I'm going to bring up some tasks typical for task 1. You can see that I've removed the actual question itself and just left the image there, but you should be able to work out which image matches to which question type above. Now, once you've done that, you can press play to continue. Okay, let's have a look. So as you can see, a graph with a trend is this one looking at bakeries. And here you can see that there is a time period from 1990 to 1999. So graphs with a trend will always feature a period of time. You can talk about what changes during that period of time. A comparative graph usually doesn't feature periods of time, or if it does feature periods of time, it might just be 2 different years, for example, when you're comparing those years. So here we have a pie chart above and a table below looking at different electricity and how that electricity is spent. So just comparisons are to be made in a comparative graph. Third, we have the process. You can see here there is a process of the life cycle of a salmon. Very clear to see that it's a process because we have different stages and arrows linking those stages together. And finally, obviously we have a map at the end here because you can see 2 places, 2 maps, and usually what we see is an old map and a newer map, and the newer map might be the present or it might be a more recent time in the past. Now, we spent a lot of time in the task 2 course talking about the different structures for the different question types. This is a lot simpler in task 1 because the task 1 responses can be structured in the same way regardless of the question type. Paragraph 1 is your introduction. We'll be looking at introductions in more detail when we come to the introductions lecture. Paragraph 2 is the overview, and again there is a specific lecture looking at overviews. And paragraph 3 is the first set of key details, where paragraph 4 is another set of key details, and again we'll be looking at these 2 paragraphs in a later lecture in a bit more detail. And just bear in mind that it is possible to write a summary which would be in the last paragraph position instead of an overview which is in the second paragraph position. But there are 2 important points. Never write both, it's a waste of time. They essentially do the same, they serve the same function, but always write one. I prefer to write an overview because it allows us to tackle a key band descriptor requirement early on. As we looked at the band descriptors earlier, we need to write a clear overview in order to achieve a band 7. So an overview and a summary are basically the same thing. One goes after the introduction, the other one goes at the end of the response, but they serve the same function.